We had one in Lillehammer at the start of the season, mass start then, 47.37, the winning time. So we're looking at just over the 3/4 of an hour. We'll get a better idea when they've been round first time. Just multiply that by 6 and add a minute or so. A lot depends on the snow conditions. Quite a lot of fresh snow over the last few days.
Yeah, quite a lot of fresh snow. I think it looked yesterday like the course was staying okay, actually. Just watching, as I said, we did say that it was important to get a good position early on. You can just see over on the left there, I think that's certainly Brennan, I think we can see there, just working really hard right from the gun to make sure she's getting herself in a good start. Starting three wide is quite unusual. Usually we'd have at least 4 or 5, so it is making it quite narrow right from the start.
Yeah, I have a feeling that was Julia Kern making a burst. She might pay the price. The American suit quite distinct in the fact that it's dark and grey, which sounds slightly bizarre, but Diggins wearing 2 on the left of your screen. Has she got a chance? She's better at the freestyle, certainly. Diggins and classic skiing, there have been quite a few wax issues over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, I think up and down would be the way to describe it. She says she's improved and she's worked really hard on it, but it seems if she doesn't get the wax right, she really does struggle with that, and I think she's had a few less convincing results as well. But she was, I think, top 10 in Biter Stolen, and in Lillehammer as well in the classic races. So, on her day, she's certainly a contender still.
Yeah, and she's still ranked number 4 in the overall rankings. A bad race today, and with Julia Kern doing well, Julia Kern could become... Rosie Brennan doing well. Brennan could become the number 1 ranked American, which would be a big boost for her, I think.
Yeah, and I think, just to look, that is an example of what happens when the course is so narrow, really bunching up just on that little uphill already, and you get that real accordion effect where the ones at the back always have to stop and they lose their momentum at the bottom of the hill and then have to work hard again over the top to get back on it. So it really shows how much more of a smooth race you can have if you stay up at the front.
Yeah, herringbone's difficult at the best of times. Ebba Andersson on the near side found a little bit of space. When you're constricted like this, 1, it looks stupid. 2, it's very, very slow. Number 25 there, Docordeux of France, looks as though she's never done herringbone in her life. And a lot of these athletes seldom use it because they're so strong, can stay in the tracks. But slow progress. And the big problem for those at the back, Posey, they were probably 25 metres behind coming into the hill. By the time they get to the top, they're hundreds of metres behind. Yeah,
as I say, that they lose a little bit. They sort of almost have to stop at the bottom to let the pack get going again, and then by the time the top ones are over the top, they're able to push over down this downhill, and it's so strung out already.
Yeah.
So I think that's Andersson in the front there. I think I'm expecting Andersson to be the one doing a lot of the hard work. She likes to go hard at this. She likes to push and work hard from the beginning.
Yeah, but we've seen her push too hard and pay the price later. 2, we've seen her push hard but with a mate alongside her, as in Frida Karlsson. Those 2 sort of give each other energy when they're racing. So I think this is a real test for Andersson. Don't forget, she won on Friday, so she's in good form. We know that.
Yeah, she's in good form and she's got good confidence. I do think personally she would benefit from being a little bit more reserved. Oh, that's
Docordeux again. Yeah, she's
struggling there.
Putting on a show today. 45, just going through at the back is Lynn Svan, a sprinter, and Svan on the comeback. Slightly surprised to see her in this event, but she knows exactly what she's doing. Number 1 is Niskanen. Now, we were sort of debating whether it was going to be Andersson or Niskanen today, and the reason we're going for Niskanen is really still to do with the Olympic performance she put in.
Yeah, the Olympic performance, a couple of other good ones this year as well, but I think she's shown that she knows how to perform on the big days. That's not necessarily today. I'm sure she'll be thinking to head to World Championships, but she seems to be good at coming into form at the right time, and certainly will be looking to be on the up before Planitzer in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, I would like to see lucky number 7 get a podium. It's overdue. Stadlober never won a World Cup. She missed her medal chance in Pyeongchang, taking the wrong turn in the 30k right at the end of the games, and there she is leading her column at least, and a very good classic skier. She's a strong skier. How does the course suit someone like her?
She said in an interview on Friday that she was particularly looking forward to this race, so she likes the longer distances in classic, as you said. I think she's a grafter, and I think there's a couple of women in there like that, and I think in a way this course does suit them. You've got quite quite a long hill out of, we're seeing it here. We had a bit of hill to start with, a small downhill, and then you got another long drag until about just over halfway around the loop, and then it's all downhill on the way back. It's quite a lot of uphill in one continuous section, and that means if you're willing to put the work in, you can break the pack apart during that uphill. And because we're on 20k, we got 6 opportunities to do that. So if you want to work hard, I would just plug away, try and whittle that pack down on each of those laps. Just hearing the chainsaws in the background. Yeah, I'm sure I said those were banned.
I thought they were banned. It's a bit like Fasching Week in Germany, where they go out, take the chains off and take them out for some scary reason. So Andersson 6, Stadlober next door to her wearing 7. Victoria Karl of Germany, who comes out of Zellermelis, which was formerly in East Germany on the right. They've produced a lot of top athletes over the years. Now I mentioned bib number 7, Julia Kern. Ever since I mentioned it, I haven't managed to spot her. So I'm now starting to feel I was seeing things, and it was actually bib 11, which is Victoria Karl making the burst up the outside. I am not convinced that Julia Kern has taken her place on the start line.
I did think it was Kern as well, but I think I could have been mistaken as well, because I certainly haven't seen her since then. Karl looks like she's got herself in a good position up in the front there. As I say, I think it is. Often we'll say, well, you don't want to be too near the front because you don't want to be doing all the work for other people, but because this is quite narrow, I think possibly for this first loop it makes sense just to be up front and out of trouble. And we can see already we're only 6 minutes into the race, coming to the end of this first lap, but there's already a little bit of a gap opening up, so still quite a lot of people in that front group, but certainly the 46 skiers are starting to string out already.
I think this is a very different scenario from the one we'll see in the men's, although the course really does, play into the single file format, doesn't it? Whereas if we think back to Lillehammer, there were 3 or 4 wide, with one Andrew Musgrave going from sort of 10th through to 1st. He went for the double pole action on that.
Yeah,
that occasion.
I'm not sure he'll do that today, but no, I certainly hope not.
Yeah, and to be honest, there are parts of the course where you're not allowed to double pole. You have to use the classic style, and the whole point of that is to make people put wax on the skis. In some ways I think it's a shame, because it's always interesting to see if someone's made the right decision.
Yeah, I think it feels a little bit artificial as well to me. I think if you're making people do a certain technique, even though it's not necessarily the fastest, what are we gaining by that? I suppose that you could argue that lots of rules in skiing and all sports are artificial, so pros and cons to both ways, but I think I prefer that it's always fun when someone tries something a bit different and see how it works out.
Yeah, and it's always fun when the lead changes, which is what tends to happen when that is going on. So the pace fairly stiff. I think the top skier is feeling, right, we've got to push hard, at least the first lap. Things may steady down. Stadlober is unlikely to be the one that slows it down. Andersson looks quite happy, stuck in there behind Stadlober. Emma Ribom of Sweden right up the front as well. So the Swedish sprinters are out in numbers today.
Yeah, it was the Swedish women. The Swedish team got a little bit of criticism on Friday. They only had 3 starters in the women's race on Friday, and that was because they have a lot of sprinters here who are prioritising yesterday's race. But I think with that done and dusted, they're looking to jump in and get another race today and get a bit of experience in the distance side. So some of these sprinters, we know them as sprinters, but on their day they can be ones to watch on distance races as well, particularly in this mass start format. If they can hold on, then they can do well in a sprint finish at the end of these ones. So certainly don't write them off, but it looks to me like that's Stadlober in the front, and she is working hard there. I think she's not a sprinter, so I think she's looking to push hard, break that pack up and make it a proper gritty endurance race.
So the first lap just about completed. We've got 5 more to go, and the time on the clock, as you can see, 9:02. Do your maths. We're looking at a slightly slower race than we had in Lillehammer. Are we really going to take 54 minutes?
I think
Oh, well, actually, that's not far off Lillehammer, is it? I was looking at the wrong stage when I looked at it. That was a 53.51. Yeah, so we're pretty much on schedule for that sort of time, 53 through to 55 minutes.
Yeah, just seeing a few more of the Swedish suits come through. That's Sundling and Ribom, so two of the sprinters pushing their way up to the front there. Heidi Weng dropped back a little bit, sitting at the back of the pack. You'd think with bib number 3 she could be a bit further forward. She'd had the benefit of the better start compared to some of them, but I'm not convinced she's on her best form at the moment.
Jess Diggins off on her own over on the far side of the train. I think Niskanen and Andersson are in the prime spots, just tucked in. Number 10 is Ingvild Flugstad Østberg. Now Østberg now 32. Haven't really seen her for the last 2 seasons due to illness. And she, of course, was the world number 1 in 2019. We've got Heidi Weng, who was the world number 1 in 17 and 18. Diggins, who was the world number 1 in 21. So lots, it's a really stacked field. But just a shame that Carlson isn't back.
Yeah, lots of experience, I think, is the way I would term the top women skiers at the moment. Compared to the sprint where we saw Skistad come through a bit younger and newer, there's a lot of more of the old recurring faces that we're seeing up front in the distance races. Just seeing a few of the skiers having to jump over to the right there outside of the track. So clearly, that is this very steep hill as well, but struggling, I think, to manage to stay in the tracks and not go into herringbone.
So at the turn going through the stadium, Stadlober, Andersson, Niskanen we know about. Palmakoski, Emma Ribom right up there. Schlind of Norway just ahead of her teammate Østberg. Diggins back in 8th place, 4.4. Nothing, what do we got? 15 seconds between the top 25. Lynn Svan down in 25th position. Haga 16.5. I think the Norwegians would be a little bit concerned, and then the gaps get bigger. Pittin is out. Delphine Claudel, who got a brilliant second on Friday, down in 35th position. She's much more of a freestyler, and again on this big climb, Posey. When did you last see World Cup athletes walking up a hill?
It's the fact they're walking, not running. I think it shows something about how steep it is, and the fact that they know they've got 6 laps of this to go. So you'd normally expect to see at least a little bit of a run there, and it actually shows the difference in fitness even between World Cup skiers. Those at the front there who are really breaking away, and those at the back of the pack who are preserving energy.
Yeah, the gaps have just multiplied by a factor of 10 as a result of that steep climb, and they know they've got to go through it again. Diggins and Weng. Weng looking a little bit unsteady. What goes up must go down, and it goes down pretty sharp here in Les Rousses. I think it's an interesting course. I do think an extra metre on the width, particularly on that steep uphill, would be good.
Yeah, I think particularly in as they had to switch to herringbone there, it seemed really, really tight and a bit of a disadvantage that you're having to jostle for space quite as much as you were. So I think we're down to 4 as Slynn desperately trying to get back out on the back, but that's Andersson, Niskanen, is that Østberg and Stadlober. So already just in the second lap, really working hard. I did think Andersson would go out hard from the start, but Niskanen willing to take it on, and it is good to see Østberg up there as well.
Yeah, that was interesting with Sweden's Ebba Andersson trying to get herself a drinks bottle. She's got those straps on that sort of encompass the whole hand rather than just looping around the wrist. And you could see she had no dexterity whatsoever. So she missed that. She didn't hesitate. She dropped the bottle, on she goes. But early stages, you want to keep those hydration levels as high as possible. I'm not sure the coach realised she didn't get it.
Yeah, it is important in these 20 kilometres that the early drink stops are really important. It doesn't matter so much if you don't get one in your 6th, because the energy doesn't come into your system early enough. It's about first, second, third lap. What can you get in there? Just looking at this front group again, it's good to see Slynn's managed to get herself on the back of that pack. I think she was a little bit disjointed. I think she'd been further back when they started to make their move, but she's managed to get herself in a good position now.
So Finland leading at the moment. Andersson getting a rest from being the workhorse, and then we have 3 red suits, 2 of them Norwegian, 1 of them Austrian. Stadlober still in there, and then the gap back to Diggins is 14 seconds now, so that really has grown. When they went through the exchange after the first lap, Diggins was only 4 down, so 10 seconds lost on that climb alone.
Yeah, the climb is absolutely going to be the crucial place. As I said, they've got to do it 6 times. So you have to be a little bit careful. If you work too hard the first ones, you're going to have nothing left. And as we said, we've certainly seen Andersson do that before. But I think it will be the place where we will see the breaks getting made. And it's already been decisive for whittling that group down. For me, if I was in that group, I would now settle down a little bit, take it a little bit more steady, just try and maintain the gap rather than having it grow, and then try and just edge it a little bit again.
Yeah, Stadlober's in trouble, out of the tracks on a relatively easy climb, looking for extra grip. The herringbone has to go in there. Slinder's got to bully her way through there. She's got to get up. Here comes Rosie Brennan trying to close the gap. Is she going to take Jess Diggins with her? She is working desperately hard at this stage. Veng is there. There's lots of talent in this second group, so the leaders group won't take it too easy. Sundling's in there, Emma Rebom as well. Heidi Veng wearing 3, 24. That's Jana Matintalo of Finland. So plenty of talent, but you're leading. Are we suddenly down a 3? We are, and that is because Stadlober held Slynn back. So Slynn's got to do a catching up job again.
I think she's done it once, and now she's going to have to do it again. I think she was definitely disadvantaged by being behind Slynn there. Brennan is trying to get back on that group, and she is pulling the rest of them with her. That's Diggins on her tail, and she's breaking up that next group. So, maybe I was wrong. I think they might need to keep working a little bit hard, but on the downhill section, I think they just need to be sensible, not risk doing anything too pushing it so much to the limit that they're going to lose control on any of those tricky corners that we've seen. I wonder, it would have been, again, because we talked a lot, and Brennan said in her pre-race interview, I just want to stay out of trouble, but it is very tight on course here, and I wonder if she was just caught a little bit far back when that first group of 5 made their move, and that's why she's now working so hard to try and get back in contact with them. Yeah,
there's a heavy price to pay if she does work too hard. Slind is getting a bit closer. You can just see them in the distance. She's pretty much made contact on the downhill, but I'll bet my bottom dollar that Stadlober is off the group by the time they get to the top of the hill after the end of the second lap.
Yeah, I think it looks like she's just about caught back up again as well, which suggests that she's still off the back a little bit actually, but I think it suggests skis are running okay. The double poling's okay, but she's not able to keep up on the uphill sections.
Yeah, and it's not like a Loppet race where you can afford 30 seconds to stop and put a bit more wax on. It's not gonna happen here. Loppet races, what have you done?
I have done the Birkebeiner very slowly.
Yeah.
And the Engadin a couple of times.
Yeah. And the downhill one. And not the Vasa.
Oh no, much too long.
Oh, the Vasa is a fantastic race. Incidentally, number 13, Slind, won the Birkebeiner and won the Vasa last year. So that's what she's been focusing on. You think her focus now is all about the World Championships and the 30k?
I think the 30k. So she used to ski World Cup fairly regularly a couple of years ago, made the switch to the long distance races sort of 3-4 years ago, something like that. So we haven't seen so much of her in the World Cup, but she's appeared here and there this year, and she said that her aim is to get a starting spot for the 30 kilometres at World Champs. So that's why she's back racing today here rather than at the Loppet races. So I think she'd be a good pick personally. I think she's proven that she's obviously got the endurance ability. It is different in World Cup compared to Loppet races. It's much more technical. You've got a lot more up and down hills, but I think she's done pretty well when she's racing. If she can stick with this group and get a good result today, that'll seal it for her.
Now watch the gaps behind. Stadlober just 5 seconds off the leaders. I think she is going to get swallowed up by the chase group as well. They were 14 seconds behind last time we got a split. That has grown. It's grown to 20. That's surprising because that was a predominantly downhill section of the course. So the double poling that Niskanen is doing out front really is doing damage to the rest of the field. Diggins goes through at 22. Veng at 23. Palmer Koski's out of it at plus 30 seconds. And I think our medals are going to the front 4, to be honest, at the moment, although, as you say, pacing is a key, and when it's a new venue like this, you're never quite sure how hard you should take that first loop.
Yeah, I do think you have to be there's still chance. That's what I enjoy about these 20 kilometres. There's still a little bit of uncertainty compared to the 10s and 15s of what could happen. Just having a look at the back, I think that was Claudel coming through as well. Had a brilliant race on Friday, but much stronger in skate than classic. So I don't think we were expecting her to do the same again today.
Yeah, and her problem, her strongest part of the course is the steep section, and she's not had it to herself. She's just been held back by those walking. Absolutely nothing she can do.
Yeah. So that gap to Stadlober is definitely growing. It's going to be interesting what Stadlober tries to do. Does she keep pushing to try and make contact with that? Or if I was her, I think I'd think about easing up a little bit, going back into that second group and working in the group again.
Yeah, I'm not sure she wouldn't be better to stop and get some extra blue on the bottom. get a little bit more traction, because she is struggling so much on the uphill sections. This second group being led by the two Swedes. 16, Jonas Sundling, top sprinter, been really solid this year. Actually missed out on the final yesterday, which was a bit of a surprise, having won in Livigno. Getting my Livignos and Lenzerheiders and all these Swiss resorts. It's been great. Valmistère, of course, used during the Tour de Ski. Good atmosphere. The cowbells ringing out here in France as well. Yesterday, this is the big climb, and Usberg struggling for the first time. A little bit of a sprint put in by Andersson and Niskanen. I wonder whether they'll use that and go for the break.
Yeah, whistling down and more, and I think actually now there's a bit more space. It's quite interesting to take a look at the herringbone technique. As you say, it's not something that gets used so much, but it's really important in this to keep the hips forward. You can see with Stadlober, and this is only their third lap, her head's down a little bit, and that means the hips tends to fall back. Your weight is sitting back. Same with Heidi Weng there, and then you're just working against gravity trying to get up to the top of that hill.
Yeah, but this is Heidi Weng's bread and butter, isn't it? The steep uphills, and she's making ground on the right-hand side. Heidi Weng, multiple-time winner of the Alpe Charamis, beaten this year by 20 seconds by Delphine Claudel of France. So down come the leaders, and that is a handy break that they've made. Andersson and Niskanen, the two favourites, are away. Usberg and Slind are going to have to fight it out. I think Usberg and Slind need to work together if they're going to make it back in touch.
Yeah, I was wondering if Slind, we saw her once, she was held up by Stadlober. I wonder if she was a little bit held up by Usberg on that one, although now Usberg seems to have recovered on the downhill section and is pushing the pace again.
Yeah, maybe she's thinking, we've got another 3 times up this climb, I need to take it easy. So a drink this time for Niskanen. Andersson, remember, missed it last time round. This time that's better.
Yeah, I think she had the benefit of a bit more space there. She was in front of that group last time. I should think the people behind weren't too pleased that she just nabbed it last time as well.
Yeah, I think she got a double that time.
Yeah,
that was useful bit of fluid, so that should save her come the end of the race. But this was always going to be an interesting battle, wasn't it? Ebba Andersson, the up-and-coming star in the Swedish team, hasn't won that many races, to be honest. Only 3 victories to her name, but 32 podiums, and that takes some doing. Niskanen, on the other hand, 4 wins, only 13 podiums, and all Niskanen's wins, 10k classic. Can she do it over double the distance?
Yeah, I think she will enjoy these 20k classics. It's not something that we've seen. The women haven't had the chance to do it so much, but I think it suits her. So that's a good battle up front. Interesting to see how this Usberg and Slind battle is going to go behind as well. Yeah,
I'm interested to see whether they can hold off the Chase group, who will probably be buoyed by the fact that now there is a definite possibility of getting someone on the podium. Yeah. You can see the work rate that Andersson's putting in.
Yeah, it was really interesting just contrasting the 2 techniques as they came up that hill as well. Andersson choosing to stay in double pole up that slight rise there, just working, showing the power that she's got, whereas Niskanen using her really smooth and nice stride that she's got instead. So interesting 2 approaches, but both working, both going with what their own strengths are.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating, because I think if this course was another 250 metres higher, Niskanen would be the hot favourite to take it. But we're up around the 1,000-metre mark. It's not too bad in terms of altitude, and I think Andersson with a very, very good chance. Yeah. Stadlober is minutes or metres away from being swallowed up by the Chase group. Jonas Sundling's done all the leading there, which is a bit surprising. Martin Talo not offering to go through. Heidi Weng at the back of the Chase group as well. Palmer Koski was Well, she was 32. She's now at 52, so that's another 20 seconds on this third lap already.
Yeah, the gap, I think that part shows as much as anything, though, how much the first skiers are pushing the pace. And the gap from Andersson and Niskanen back to that chasing group is 38 seconds to Stadlober, 42 to Sundling. So I think it's as much about the front ones being fast as everyone else dropping off. They're just absolutely hammering the pace at the front.
Yeah. There's a bit of everything, isn't there, in this course? It's a much, much harder course than the one they ended up racing in Lillehammer due to the snow conditions. They used the biathlon stadium there as opposed to the cross-country one, and that's part of the reason that your brother decided double poling was the way to go, because there weren't any brutally steep hills. I can't see anyone double poling this hill here.
I mean, I questioned it last time he chose to do that. He still says it was the right decision, so, you know, he knows himself better than anyone, but I certainly think here it's going to be a different matter.
Yeah, from what you've seen of the course, and we didn't get to see a lot of it in the time trial. We didn't get to see the steep section at all. Who are you thinking of in terms of the men? I'm thinking for someone who weighs less than 65 kilos.
Well, again, I think this is an opportunity for the men if they're brave enough to take Klæbo on for some of those pure distance skiers to break the pack up. You know, this is a tricky hill. It's a hard hill. If you can just keep the pace high, each lap I think it'll get whittled down. So I think there's opportunity for Werther, as you say, or I don't know, Holland maybe, some of those more pure long distance skiers to get an opportunity. Kruger, yeah.
He likes a hill.
He does like a hill, not so good in classic, so I think that's why I'd go Werther and Holland maybe. We'll see the men later, obviously, but Nyenget will be an interesting one. We haven't seen much of him.
So this is the fight for 3 and 4 at the moment. Slind now ahead of Østberg, and there's something comforting about being in a race alongside someone that you've done thousands and thousands of kilometres with. You settle down, everything's much more relaxed. It's no less competitive, but we get a lot of good performances when two team members team up.
I think so, and I think they'll know each other's strengths as well. So, you know, Slind, because she does a lot of the long distance, she's going to be so good at double poling because a lot of their races are nothing but double pole. So I would tuck in behind her and let her lead the pace on those bits. That's going to be her strength. Then maybe let Østberg take some of the downhills and the gradual up sections and that type of area. So that's probably how I would want to do it. I would sort of work to each other's strengths. Looks like Slind's got quite good skis as well. That gap's opened up a little bit there on that slight downhill section.
Yeah, double poling is powerful. Andersson leading pretty much the bulk of this third lap. They're coming down towards the exchange, coming into the halfway stage with 27:30. We were thinking it was going to be around 55, but I think the laps, because of the severity of the course, I think the laps are going to get, then we're not going to see any negative splits, let's put it that way.
I don't think so, and I don't think they've paced it in a way where they're leaving something for the end. I think Andersson's gone for her usual tactic of going hard from the gun and seeing who can stay with her, and in this case there's only one person that can.
Yeah, and if Andersson is working on Max, I think you would back Niskanen to get her in the finish.
Oh, I think there's a bit of a gap opening up here between Slind and Østberg as well. It's only a little bit, but I think those gaps, once they appear, they just grow and grow and grow. So it'll be interesting to see, can Østberg stick with her, have a bit of a burst here to get back on her tails as they get into the uphill section, or is this the decisive moment for Slind?
Yeah, and those 3 seconds have been opened up on the flat, the double poling section. As you say, that's where she's good. I think if she manages to increase it again on the climb, that bodes well for Slind in a podium.
Yeah, I think if she can, as you say, if she can increase it, I can't see Østberg being able to come back again in later loops.
And Slind, of course, she was in the Tour de Ski, 7th in the Tour de Ski, which was a really good performance from her. What do we see her in? She raced in Biderstolen, just outside the top 20 in the 10-kilometre time trial classic there. So this is a big step up for Slind, sitting in 3rd place at the moment. There goes Parmakoski, 1:02, so another 10 seconds lost on that lap, and the leaders back into this brutal climb. Loads of fans here, which is great stuff. So early into the herringbone. Niskanen holds on to the tracks just that little bit longer.
Yeah, interesting to see. I think that gap is definitely growing now, isn't it? So this is looking good for Slynn. But with the other two, the work rate's really different. Andersson's tempo is so high all the time; it just looks really hard work. Niskanen looks a little bit smoother when she's skiing up the hills. Slynn doing a bit of a slip there. Just about to say she was doing quite a good job of staying in the track until that point, but I think the camera angle doesn't quite do justice to how steep this section is.
Yeah, work rate absolute max, even in the lower parts of that climb. Rosie Brennan working well. Emma Rebohm wearing 19. She's put in a day's shift so far. Martin Talo hasn't been quite happy to tuck in behind the two leading this group. Sensible racing, some would say. Selfish, others would say. Stadlober wearing 7. Remember, she was up with the leading 4 initially, but then faded as soon as the wax failed. And she's having to go into the herringbone, 20, 30, 40 metres before the rest. You've got to give it 10 out of 10 for keeping going. Most would have given up at this stage.
Yeah, it's a shame for her. I think the wax certainly looks like she hasn't quite got the kick wax right. On a course like there's often a bit of a decision between, do you go light on the kick wax so you can benefit on the downhills? But I think on this course, the uphills are so brutal and so long. You have to give yourself enough that you can get up without having to put in too much extra work.
Yeah, so on climbs like this, were you a ski tip watcher, or did you manage to get your head up and look at the top of the hill?
You've got to try and look up the hill, but it certainly is hard when it feels like it's never ending.
There's not many people doing it at the moment. The head's getting lower and lower and lower, just trying to keep some sort of tempo going. And Andersson's gone early. My goodness, that is a brave break. Now, she must have made the break at the top of the climb, Posey. We didn't get to see that, unfortunately, but Niskanen hanging on in there, trying to live with the pace of the Swede. That's a significant move.
Yeah, I think, as I said, Andersson's pace work rate looked higher, so her tempo was really high. Niskanen looked like nice and smooth, but Andersson just always works so hard.
Yeah, now she ignored that first drink. Has she got another one coming?
I think it was just out of shot.
Yeah, I'm not sure she didn't just go straight past. Those bottles look full to me. Now, is that a wise decision? You'd certainly want another drink, but she's done some good work. She doesn't want to throw that away. She wasn't to know that Niskanen was going to take a drink herself.
Yeah, I still wonder if it's a little bit early. I've just seen her do this so many times when she pushes it and then she blows up too early. Maybe, I'm sure she knows herself, maybe she's got it right this time, and I certainly hope she has done, but I just wonder if she wanted to just work with Niskanen for another lap and then push in the 5th lap.
Yeah, it's quite a difficult place to take a drink because you have to stop double poling. You have to lose time to take it. I mean, they're generally told where to go, aren't they? It's not like you can put a drink stop anywhere. Yeah,
I think there's usually sort of 2 or 3 places on course that are designated for it. So, and usually it will be something that's coming out of a downhill, so they've got a bit of a speed and they're not having to kind of completely stop altogether. Niskanen being pretty gritty there. She's not letting the gap open too much, and that's actually the same with these two back here. Although Slynn's got that break on Osberg, sometimes you see once you've got a bit of a break, 2-3 seconds, that just opens up, straight away to 10-15, but Osberg looks like she's still working and not letting that gap open too much more.
Yeah, Slynn's got 3.5-4 seconds at the moment. I just have a feeling it might be a little bit bigger when they come back through the stadium. This is the section of the loop where Slynn has been superior to Osberg. Have a look at the margin, up to 41.7, so yeah, just under that 4-second mark. Niskanen at 3.4. She was further behind at the top of the hill, so the Finn is working hard. This is the chase group for the minor places. There's so much talent in that chase group. Rosie Brennan is there. Jess Diggins hanging on, not been the best of day for her, but when she gets tired, and you notice this with quite a few of the Americans, when they get tired, the technique goes. With the Scandinavians, it doesn't. Is that because the Scandinavians tend to start at the age of 2?
It certainly could be something to do with that. I think Diggins is doing the sensible thing though here, that she's tired, so she's just tucking in the back and trying to conserve energy. But certainly, I think we saw on Friday, her technique by the end was, she was hanging on in there. I think it looks a little bit better now, but yeah, certainly she does seem to. You do see it fall away pretty dramatically when she gets tired.
Yeah. And Rosie Brennan, she can have the same issue, but she didn't start skiing till later.
Yeah.
How can you live in Alaska and not start skiing till later on?
Well, I think she didn't grow up in Alaska, so that might be the excuse. I think she moved there when she was a bit older, and I think moved to train with the one of the clubs in Anchorage, the Alaska Pacific University, which is where Keegan Randall trains, Sadie Bjornsson, who's on the team, a lot of those ones. So moved up there a bit later, possibly. But I think from, I want to say Utah or somewhere else quite snowy, but possibly not as ski mad as Alaska.
Yep. And in Alaska, as you spent some of your youth there, was it predominantly cross-country skiing? Or, I mean, I know the backcountry skiing is sensational.
Yeah, a bit. I think there's something for everyone, but there is certainly a lot of cross-country skiing, and it's something that you can do after school in the way that you might do a swimming club or football or whatever in the UK. So, I used to go to after-school skiing twice a week when I was younger, and then there was a school ski team in high school, so it's just a normal sport on the curriculum, like the sports that we would do here are.
Yeah. Well, credit to Niskanen. She's held on. She's kept that gap to something like 3 seconds. They're now into the section that we saw at the end of the sprint. And Slind and Usberg,
I think in a way made up a little bit.
Yeah, Usberg's come back. She was 3.8 seconds behind. She's now drawing level on the downhill section. I'm not convinced these two aren't better to stay together and then fight it out over the last 500 metres.
I would agree.
That might be their best chance of both of them staying ahead of the chase group.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you said before that sometimes if you work with a teammate, you can get into a good rhythm, and I think they would benefit from just thinking about, that they're unlikely to make the gap up to these two unless something goes disastrously wrong with one of them. Yeah. So they should focus on the fact they've got third and fourth sewn up. How can they solidify that and work well? And
you've done enough racing to know that when you get away from someone and then 5 minutes later they're back, that makes you feel pretty bad. So I'm just wondering how Andersson is feeling, seeing Niskanen edge ever closer to the back of her skis, having put in that phenomenal effort at the top of the climb.
Yeah, maybe this will be the time she learns.
Well,
let someone else do some of the work at some point. I think she should have just let Niskanen lead for at least one of the hills. Yeah, she'd just be leading from the start.
Yeah, that's 2 laps. Niskanen's led 1 lap. Andersson has led 3 so far. That has to be reversed. She needs to think. And we saw Frida Karlsson in Oberstdorf. She backed off. She made a bid for glory, realised it wasn't going to work, so she backed off, and it was the right decision on that occasion.
I think Karlsson and Andersson both are guilty of this. So I admire it in many ways. They have confidence and self-belief, so they work hard from the gun. But I think if you want to win races, there's no harm in doing it with a bit of tactics as well, and choosing when to put your work in rather than going from the start. And I just think Andersson, she clearly doesn't want to let it come down to a sprint finish, and that's fine, but I think you can do that while not going full out every single lap. Let someone do the work.
Yep. So Usberg is back into third and being matched stride for stride. These two, last time we saw, were 40 seconds behind. It's going to be interesting to see whether they've managed to close the gap at all. The margin was actually 38 to Slind, 41 to Usberg.
Yeah, a little bit more.
Yeah, so they've lost a bit. They're not gaining on those two leaders. And the gap between themselves and the chase group was similar, around the 40-second mark. So battle for gold and silver, and a good battle for the bronze medal here. This group don't look as though they are trying to chase down on third and fourth.
Interesting seeing Parma Koski up there. I thought at one point she was actually off the back of this group, so she seems to have kind of settled down a bit, found a good pace. I think it's the gap's way too much that she'll be able to get up to any of the podium positions, but obviously found the right pace for the rest of this, and now starting to creep up to the front of that group, which we haven't seen at all before.
Yeah, I'm really impressed that Stadlober's managed to hang on. She's got the pink headband on, wearing bib 7. Remember, she was with the leading group, but then I think largely due to the fact that the skis weren't gripping well, she's got good glide, staying out of the tracks as much as possible, but she's doing well on the second half of the course. It's this section coming up now that she does not enjoy.
Yeah, it's clearly just not quite got the kickbacks right today, or risk going without enough, because she went out of the course so much earlier. So Andersson again, she's pushing on the uphill section. She only knows one way to try and win, and she's doing it again here. She's just trying to get that gap to open up. I think Niskanen's being smart. I think she's saying, if 2-3 seconds open, I can work hard on the downhills and let it come back again. This could be enough, though. This is going a little bit more.
Yeah, this is a big difference in pace as they make the climb. The bonus trophy points going to Andersson.
You just see again the head keeps dropping. She keeps trying to look up, but then it just keeps dropping again. That's a sign of someone who's very, very tired.
Yeah, whereas look at the length of stride that Andersson is taking. That is absolutely astonishing, considering this is the 5th time up this climb. They've basically made their way up the landing zone of a ski jump. Now, anyone who's been on a ski jump will know just how steep that is, and what the height difference is phenomenal. So Andersson, supremely impressive here today. She deserves to win. Whether she will or not, we do not know yet. And if Niskanen can make touch before the final lap, do you think if she manages to maintain that gap that was opening up there, if she doesn't let it grow too much, I still think she can get back on the downhill section. Andersson does look stronger and she looks like she's got more energy, but I don't think it's over for Niskanen just yet. These two look a bit more like they're kind of skiing a bit more together there. It doesn't look like either one of them are kind of trying to break away. They're just working at a sensible pace there, and I think that's the right thing to do. Maintain the energy. Remember, they've got one more loop to go. And I think now, Marmakovsky, for a second it looked like she just made a bit of a gap over the others, but in this following group, but I don't think that is actually the case. I think it was just the camera angle. But well, what a contrast between Andersson and this group. They're going to lose 30 seconds alone on the climb, and I'm expecting the gap to grow. When they went through the last checkpoint, we were at 1:33. It's already at 1:45, and we're not even halfway up the hill.
Yeah, just speaking about the Americans and their technique going, actually, you could really see it there with Diggins. Again, I said, just look how the mouth open is always a good sign that she's feeling it, but she's really sitting back there, and again, it just makes it so hard.
Yeah, there's no way you can get any pressure down through, the knees are bent and your back's out the rear, and you're low down. You can't get any pressure on those skis to get the wax to work. So instead you start to use the edge of the ski, whereas Andersson, pretty much for me, was the only one who was coming off a flat ski.
Yeah, I think so. She looked mightily impressive, as she still does now, and that gap has definitely widened a little bit more since we saw them last.
Isn't it fantastic? She's out of the same model as Jess Diggins. This ability to push and push and push. You have to admire it, and it's very easy to sit here and be critical about tactics. But my goodness, I wish I could make my body suffer like she can make hers. Yeah,
absolutely. As you say, it's very easy to say, "Oh, why don't you do it like this?" But the work rate is undeniable. The self-belief as well to do it that way and to make it hurt right from the beginning. It's something that I enjoy, that approach. It's very impressive to watch.
So how are the chasing two going through 13.9? They were 55 seconds behind. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they've lost ground to Andersson, but they look to me to be going as well as Niskanen, and they were 49 seconds down on Niskanen's time. So they've got another 10 seconds to come through. That's going to be roughly the same, maybe grown a couple of seconds.
I think that gap's too much. Even if Niskanen really struggles on the last lap, I think that's so much time now. She's got 50 seconds in front of those two. She'd have to do something spectacularly bad, blow up spectacularly in that last lap for those two to catch her.
Well, Andersson's going to like France if she wins again today. That's a lucrative, successful, morale-boosting weekend for her, having won on Friday.
Yeah, and well needed, I think, after a difficult start to the season with illness earlier on. So I think it's always frustrating to be sitting out for quite a long block of time like she did. So much needed confidence boost ahead of the World Championships.
Yeah, ill initially, and then decided to focus on the World Championships rather than do the Tour de Ski. So you've got to take that into consideration. I know we're 3 weeks down the line from the Tour de Ski, but there's still quite a lot of fatigue around.
Yeah, I think a lot fresher than some of the athletes racing today who did compete through all of that. So I think obviously she knows what's right for her, and it seems like she's made the right decision. If the World Championships is what she wants to focus on, I think that's going to pay off for her.
Yeah, so the chase group have gone from 1:30 behind to 2. The gaps it's a bit like the stars. They're getting further and further apart, and it's not going to stop. I don't see any way that they're now going to catch the 2 leaders. So the gold and silver certainly going to be shared between Andersson and Niskanen. I think Andersson probably the favourite now. Let's see what she's got when she comes through to start her final lap. She was 10 seconds clear coming over the top of the hill, and there is no sign of Niskanen. I think the chase is over. There she is.
Yeah, and she still looks good as well. I think I have been a bit critical of her going for this technique, of this approach all the time, but when it's not worked before, we've seen by this point in the race she's starting to struggle and the technique's falling apart, but she still looks strong and she still looks in control.
Yeah, so I haven't seen her look over her shoulder once. She's totally focused, unless she's got a little bit of mirror on those shades and she can see what's going on behind her. But I always like that in an athlete, the ability just to keep your head down, do what you do best, don't focus too much on the athlete behind you. Niskanen doesn't look quite as comfortable as she did last time. The work rate is still there, but she knows she has to use this flat section to try and close the gap. This was the crucial turn in the sprint yesterday where I sort of feel Klæbo got the tactics wrong. Had he taken the lead at this point, I think he would have been looking at his 60th World Cup win.
Yeah, we'll see if if it comes down to that last corner again today in the men's race, or if it does break apart a little bit more like the women's. Be interesting to see how that goes. So Slind, I don't think trying to break apart from Osberg, but just going in front on the downhill section, obviously wanting to have free run there and take that at her own pace, which is a stronger section for her.
Yeah, I think Slind, if she can control the pace up the climb, she will know that she's got 50 seconds between herself, in fact even more than that, up to 55 between herself and 5th position, so she's not going to lose that. But if she can stop Osberg getting ahead on the climb, Slind is quicker on the second part of the course.
I think so, and actually a lot of these Loppet races that she does do come down to sprint finishes, so she's actually a pretty good finisher as well,
yep.
Despite the fact we think of her as a long distance racer.
Now let's have a look at the margin again. Last time they came through it was just 6.7 seconds. It has grown just to 11.3, so 10 seconds ahead at the top of the hill for Andersson, but this time Niskanen hasn't been able to do anything about it. So I think Andersson, if provided she can keep the same sort of pace. Slind is working hard on the double pole. Osberg not enjoying that, so goes for a little bit of two-phase. Yeah, that's the Loppet racer for you, isn't it? Number
absolutely.
13.
Yeah, you can just see the strength in the double pole there. It's pretty impressive to see. Just a quick look over the shoulders. You said it's shows that she's well aware Osberg's there and considering what move she's going to make. I agree. I think she needs to just keep it in control on the uphill and then work from the top of the hill.
So we're going to give Andersson the gold, Niskanen silver. Who's getting the bronze?
It's a tough call between those two. Osberg's really come back into form over the last couple of months. I think it's really hard. And I think Osberg's obviously, she's got a sprint background as well. You know, she's got medals in the sprint from Sochi quite a while ago now, but you know, has been at the top of her game in the sprint. But Slind, I think, looks a bit stronger.
Yeah, Osberg, don't forget, was 4th in the 10 kilometre on Friday. I know that was a freestyle race, but it shows that she's in good form. Only a couple of seconds, 4 seconds outside the podium positions. Jess Diggins hanging on in there, although she was decelerating at the end. Here goes Niskanen. She resigned herself to 2nd place. It's not often you see her grimacing. It's her brother who does the grimacing, but my goodness, he's usually flying when that's going on. So there you can see the margins. Now we have a minute between Andersson and position 3 and 4. The two Norwegians locked in a battle. The chase group, they are all about points. So they've forgotten that they're not interested in top 4. It's about getting 5 and 6. And I think there are 1 or 2 athletes in there. Matin Talo I've picked out before. They're just going to tuck in behind. Palmakoski in a good slot at the moment. Jess Diggins is there. Bit of a battle between Diggins and Brennan in terms of World Cup.
Yeah, possibly. I think they both said at the start of the year that they wanted to focus on the World Cup overall this year, because they're both quite good all-rounders. I think Diggins is in the lead in that at the moment, isn't she? But I feel like Brennan's been more on the up, whereas Diggins started the season well and has then been a little bit more inconsistent since then.
Yeah, Diggins is 4th, Brennan is 5th. There is a margin of 54 points between the two of them, so it's not a huge amount. By last year's scoring, that could close in one race. This year, with only 5 points separating 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's much harder to close a gap like that. But one bad race from either of them and they could find themselves out of touch. So Andersson's on her way to a victory. She's done the damage. She was 12 seconds clear last time we saw. I think the next split may be even more positive than that, and all she's got to do is stay on her feet, essentially.
I was going to say, navigating those downhills after 6 times round when your legs are feeling it is harder than it sounds. I think we take it for granted sometimes, but she looked very in control there, and she's still looking good, and the tempo, the work rate on the double pole is so impressive.
Yeah, lots of bonus seconds bonus points for Andersson as well today. It's a classic Andersson performance. No change in the tactics. Start hard, keep going hard, and try and finish hard. This time she's hung on. Absolutely,
and this is going to feel really good for her coming into World Championships. One more round of World Cups to go, then the World Championships. Winning a race in a dominant fashion like that, there's not much more that you can ask for.
Yeah. And well done to Niskanen. She did her first World Cup way back in 2007. That must have been up in Ruka at the start of the 2007-2008 season. But here she is, going strong. Remember, she just missed the gold in the Olympic 10-kilometre classic style, missing out by 0.4 of a second. So Østberg leads, Slind is in there, and I think they've been over the top of the hill. Slind must feel it's hers.
I wouldn't say it's over yet. Østberg's gritty. I called it for Slind, and now I'm worrying about my choice. I think Østberg's gritty and she'll work hard, but I think Slind will want to get in front of her at some point soon and just up the rate on these double pole sections as they get to the north towards the bottom of the course.
Yeah, but what I want to know what strength Østberg's going to call on to beat Slind. Slind is taller. She's stronger in terms of double poling. She's raced cleverly. She's rested where she could. Didn't feel that a 4-second gap was enough, so she tucked in behind Østberg. I just think it's all pointing to the Loppet racer.
I think the only thing I would give in Østberg's favour is the sprint background and the fast twitch. If it comes down to a drag race for the last 100 metres or so, Østberg might get it.
Well, I will go on yesterday's assumption that if you don't lead into the last 100 metres, round the corner into the home straight, you've got a very slim chance of winning. So whoever's first round that corner is going to take that one, and I still suspect it will be Slim, but I hope it's a good one. Here we go with Niskanen now at 23 seconds. So Andersson has been relentless. And these two are now just thinking it's all about the tactics. They're not going to shake each other off. They've just been past the stadium. They've skied this many times. We saw this part of the course on the sprint yesterday.
Yeah, neck and neck between the two of them. I think this is 18 kilometres, so 2 kilometres to go. This is where we get into this sort of downhill kind of section before long, sort of more gradual downhill where you can double pole. It's not just about tucking, so that's going to be important. Really nice to see people the whole way around the course as well. I've been enjoying the background noise, hearing the cowbells, the cheering. It's been a brilliant venue. I hope we'll be back here a bit more often.
Well, I think we should. First time ever the World Cup has been to Les Rousses. As we said earlier, La Clusaz has been the location of choice, but what's also important is that the French have had a second place and a win in the 4 races that have been completed so far.
Yeah, great for the team, and I think great for the team, great for the home crowd. Obviously, it makes it good for them. Want to come out if they've got wins on the go. It's Diggins, I think, just starting to drop off the back. There's 4 in that group that are pushing the pace a little bit.
Yeah, Heidi Weng's in there, Sundling, and of course Emma Ribom you have to favour them, the two of the best sprinters in the world, just wearing 16 and 19. Matin Talo is still tucked in behind Heidi Weng. Weng really has done the donkey work here in trying to get away from the rest of the chase group, but they look as though they're coming back, and Diggins is no mean sprinter as well, so she might fancy her chances of getting up into 5th position.
Yeah, she's done well. That looked like there was a bit of a break that tried to be made, and then Diggins has come back, and they haven't quite got away from the others either. But I think every time we've seen Matin Talo, she's been in 2nd place in this group, so she's positioned herself perfectly.
Yeah.
She's not so known for being a sprinter, but I think she's conserved the most energy.
Now Andersson must be aware that she has a gap of over 20 seconds, but there's no holding back. It's so impressive. She won the 10k in style. She was 14 seconds clear of Delphine Claudel, only 23rd in the rankings because she missed the Tour de Ski and of course was ill before that. So she's done 6 races this year, 4 podiums, 2 wins. She's turning that to 7, 5 and 3. Those are percentages that no one else on the women's tour can match.
Yeah, it's been a good weekend for her, certainly a good confidence booster, and really impressive win today. I think I was a little bit sceptical, I have to say. She keeps going this way, but I don't think it was ever really in doubt. She never looked like she showed a moment of weakness, and she's led from the gun.
Yeah, Niskanen, a veteran. Is this going to be her last season? I doubt it, the way she's going. But I think a lot of people would like to see take a win at the World Championships. I suspect Carlsen will be back. Andersson is certainly going to be one of the favourites for many medals. What can Niskanen win? Does it have to be classic? I think so.
I think certainly maybe the skiathlon as well. I think she's got a shot in with the skiathlon. She's done well there before as well. But I think the 30k classic is going to be the best option for her.
The target.
Yeah.
And Planica, it doesn't have the altitude that Niskanen enjoys. But we will see. So here comes Andersson into the finish. It's been a long, hard day, and she has gone from the gun, absolutely flat out. 2 wins in 3 days for Ebba Andersson of Sweden. She's climbing very rapidly up the World Cup table, but far more importantly for her, she is getting into the best shape of her life just before the World Championships. Niskanen made a race of it, but at lap 4, and Andersson did put in a positive break on lap 4. That seems to have been the key today. Niskanen closed the gap once, but then when it opened again, there was no comeback. So really good performance for the Finn. I think she'll be happy with that, recognising she was beaten by a better athlete. Now the race for 3rd. Østberg still leading as they come into the closing stages. Slind is looking for a moment, goes on the inside. Østberg's opened that one up, should have moved to the right hand side, and in the space of 20 metres, Slind has made a break, and she's got such a powerful double pole. It's going to be tough to close this one now.
That was a great move by Slyn there. She just snuck on that inside lane, used the double polling power. She was able to power over the top, didn't have to change technique at all. So that was a really good move by her.
Yeah, they were 120 behind, another 20-25 seconds of racing. Østberg just doesn't have the power in the double pole, and Slind, who has rested relatively over the last few laps, does exceptionally well. 120 the margin, 3rd place for her. She's on the podium. Østberg 4th place for the 2nd time in 3 days. That's gonna hurt, but I think she's done what was required to get herself a nomination for the World Championships. I don't think they can leave her out now.
No, I think she's proven that she deserves a spot there, so I think we'll certainly see her. But yeah, frustrating to say the least. And as we said, with the next group coming through, that's the sprinters in the group, Sundling and Ribom, who are now out in front.
Yeah, Emma Ribom leading the charge for 5th place. So 2 Norwegians, 3 and 4. It's going to be 2 Swedes, 5 and 6. Sundling just behind. Number 24, Matin Talo, played the game absolutely right, but not enough power in the finish. She must have been aware of that. And all credit to Stadlover. That is a hard day's work. First thing she thinks about is stopping the watch just to get that will be all about getting heart rate readings and looking into where she might have worked harder or where she worked too hard. Diggins 9, Palmakoski 10, Heidi Weng. It's the same old names, the majority of the top 10 all over 30.
Yeah, it's an older field. an experienced field. Nice to see, I think, Rebum and Sundling do well there in the distance races as well. We don't see that quite so often, and a slightly different name for the top of the distance standings as well.
Catherine Sauerbrey didn't get a mention for Germany, didn't really see her until now, 2:52 behind. A good run from Razimova of the Czech Republic. 45 is Lynn Svan. So all the sprinters showing that they're not bad when it comes to distance. Swedish relay team, they won in Seefeld.
It could be a good one.
Could be a really good performance from them. Yanatova, 2 Czechs in the top 16, and Pipo is pooped. That was a very, very hard race for her. A dramatic fall across the line. They're all suffering, to be honest. And Hayley Swirbel there, another of the Alaskan skiers, coming in 19th place, 3:30. The margins are huge today. Do we think it's going to be the same in the men's, as we see a good sprint coming in from Kiloinen to secure 20th position ahead of Ragnhild Haga?
That's a shame. Haga was the thing that one I was keeping half an eye on. She's not had anything spectacular this year, but I thought on a good day she could have been up there, but clearly not on the form she has been in previous years.
Conorella and Franchi in for Italy. And 25 getting a few shouts at Decordeux, who looked uncomfortable on the first lap, let alone the 6th. Yeah. That's been a tough day for her, but well done.